Okay, so before you go out there and start flaming me in the comments, I'll just say this right here. I'm gonna try to make this video as least emotionally fueled as I can make it, because even though there are indeed some emotions that can get tangled up into this kind of discussion, I do believe it is proper to go ahead and look at things at face value, because when it comes to Jamie Benn, Dallas Stars captain and former Art Ross winner, he's been making enemies left and right when it comes to certain teams' fan bases. The Detroit Red Wings fan base in particular is one that has hated Ben for the past few months, spanning back to the end of last season, and now it appears that Ottawa Senators fans are getting their fair share of hate in there as well. Why is that? Well, let's go over a few of the things that happened with Detroit, because when it comes to Jamie Benn and his relationship with the Red Wings, hey, in the second half of the NHL season in 2021, the Red Wings were playing the Stars, and we had ourselves some captain-to-captain confrontation, as Dylan Larkin and Jamie Benn were going up against each other in the face-off. The puck was dropped, both players were digging around for it, Dylan Larkin kind of went a little bit forward to try to get it, and Benn's next move was to jam the shaft of his hockey stick right into the back of Larkin's neck, which caused him to miss the remainder of the season. Now, there was no discipline or anything from the Department of Player Safety from Benn on this play, but the magnitude of the damage caused, Dylan Larkin, the captain of the team, missing the remainder of the year on a play that wasn't penalized by the referees in the game nor the Department of Player Safety, you could understand why Red Wings fans had gotten pretty ticked off at Jamie Benn. And I mean, it was only earlier this year, so it's not like they've lived that down, right? Well, let's talk about Ottawa now, because in the recent game against the Sens, we had ourselves Jamie Benn doing a very similar move to Shane Pinto, NHL rookie and overall face-off winning guy. This time, instead of going up against Larkin, it is Shane Pinto, whom Jamie Benn is fighting in the face-off dot, and Pinto kind of does the same thing. He goes a little bit down forward trying to get the puck away, and Benn, almost instinctually it looks like, just jams his hockey stick into the back of Pinto. Now, this one, admittedly, was not as bad as the Dylan Larkin one, but this kind of play, with it being something that we had seen literally just a few months ago, is something that everybody is taking a look at now and saying, man, Jamie Benn, dude, what are you doing? Now, this wasn't called in the game. It wasn't penalized again, which is pretty strange because the NHL had an entire protocol for this season where they said, yeah, we're going to start cracking down on cross-checks. We're going to call them more because we don't want this to be a part of the game. And for the most part, in some of the games that I had seen in the preseason and some of the Canucks games as well, I'm going to be honest, I'd actually been seeing a lot more of these cross-checks being called. A lot of the plays that probably would have gone unscathed last year are starting to get the call to the penalty box. However, it's not perfect, because obviously you're still having things like this go down, where, yeah, that's a dangerous move by Jamie Benn. Pinto, luckily, was not hurt, but it does bring up a discussion again as to carelessness, as to instincts, and what exactly the NHL is doing to combat this type of stuff. Because there's no Department of Player Safety hearing on this, which I don't really know if it would be the right move necessarily, but when you take a look at how things happened last season, okay, at face value, it's a cross-check to the back of the neck of Larkin. It is what it is, cross-checks happen all the time. It's just the way the NHL responded to that by putting in this rule to start cracking down on things, it hasn't nearly been as consistent as it needs to be in order for these types of things to be prevented. You're ultimately saying when you put this new cross-checking rule in that you want this removed from the game. It's like tripping, it's like slashing, it's always going to be there, but you don't want it to be an intentional kind of thing that players go for. When it comes to tripping, you can trip somebody accidentally. You can slash somebody accidentally. You can do a lot of penalties accidentally, but cross-checking is one of those where it's like, yeah, if you cross-check someone, it's because you wanted to do that. You never cross-check somebody accidentally when you're throwing a good hit. Because when you throw a good hit, hey, guess what? You're likely leading in with your shoulder, you're likely using your bicep and your body weight as a momentum piece in that hit, and you're doing it in a manner that is shoulder to shoulder or whatever. There's ways to hit people that are clean. Cross-checking is a penalty for a reason, and when it comes to the severity and how likely these calls are going to be made, the fact that you're still getting plays like this on Pinto getting uncalled kind of reinforces the problem over here. Like, for Jamie Benn, this thing where he does the face-off and the guy comes forward and he just pushes his stick down into the back of their necks or their back in general, it almost looks like an instinct. He's so careless with his stick in a manner that is dangerous and prone to causing injury if you're not careful. It's so casual when he does it. And again, I tried to say that I'm not going to be emotional about this commentary, but when it gets to that point where you're seeing these actions repeated over and over again, it's kind of been known that Jamie Benn is one of these not too clean players, you know? He's definitely not a whistle in the NHL. Sure, he's skilled. Sure, he's got point-producing potential. Sure, he's got an Art Ross to his name. But Jamie Benn is one of those sneakily dirty kind of players. And it's dirty. Let's go ahead and say that right here. It should have been called, should have been to the box, maybe even Department of Player Safety for the Dylan Larkin thing. Dallas Stars fans, think about it like this. If you had this guy playing on any other team and he does that to one of your players, you think you're going to feel the same way about this guy? Like, I get defending your players and saying, oh, you know, he's our guy, he's playing rough and tough hockey, whatever. But just think about it from the other people's point of views. You can't say with 100% sincerity that Jamie Benn is the cleanest hockey player out there. It's plays like these where he ends off the season of a captain, or when he goes up against a rookie and nails him in the back, that really taint that player profile. So for the NHL to just see this and not really do anything about it, like, what are you doing, guys? There are so many parties that I think deserve discussion over here that it's almost kind of nuts how we're still having this conversation even after the NHL said they would start to crack down on cross-checks. Again, even though in some of the games that I'd seen they'd been making a little bit more cross-checking calls, it hasn't been enough to the point where I feel like the rule has been enforced. Okay, players are going to stop cross-checking now because they fear that 2-minute penalty. Now, it feels like they're just doing it the same way they did before. It's just sometimes it's getting called, other times it's going unscathed, and it doesn't really feel all too consistent. Now, the NHL, I know it's tough to go out there and completely enforce a brand new rule a year after things were okay the previous season, but you gotta go out there and start doing these kinds of plays, dude. This Pinto one was bad enough to the point where it could have been a penalty. Sure, it wasn't Dylan Larkin season-ending bad, I guess, but there's an element of danger that you're sort of allowing to exist when you keep these plays in the game and unpenalized. So, for Red Wings fans, talk to me in the comments what do you think about the Jamie Benn thing over here. Watch the Pinto clip. Go ahead and do that. And tell me if you feel any deja vu. We talked about deja vu in the previous video. The Nikita Kucherov LTIR thing potentially happening again. I can't believe that's actually going down. But let me know in the comments if you see similar things out of the Shane Pinto situation than you did with the Larkin situation. I don't think it's as bad, but if anybody wants to go out there and give their own 2 cents about it, then hey, that's your prerogative. The comment section is your floor. Also, just the entire Larkin thing in general, this is kind of why the Matthew Joseph thing was such a big deal when Dylan Larkin got hit in the back of the head and went headfirst into the boards and retaliated by absolutely clocking Joseph in the head. It's kind of why that happened, you know? The play that Ben did, the injury, and the lack of discipline from the NHL pretty much saying that this kind of play was acceptable under the rules. Oh, you got injured on it? You had to end off your season? Well, that's too bad because the rule is that this play that Ben did on you, Larkin, sorry, but it's okay. So for Dylan Larkin, it's like, yeah, he kind of feels like he needs to take matters into his own hands when the NHL's not fighting for you, so you got to go out there and do the disciplining yourself. Hey, Joseph, you can't do that, clock right in the head. So there's a lot of context to all this stuff in the NHL, but either way, let me know in the comments what you think. If you're an Ottawa Senators fan, also let me know in the comments what do you think about this Pinto thing, and I guess just the way that everybody responded. I mean, Jamie Benn also had a fight against Josh Brown in that game too, although I'm not sure if that fight was before or after the Pinto cross-check. I didn't watch the game in its entirety, I just kind of watched snippets here and there, because I had a hockey game yesterday that I actually had to play myself. Dallas Stars fans, though, have I been fair in this assessment of Jamie Benn and the entire conversation we're having over here? Do you agree that these types of plays are dangerous and that Jamie Benn has been somewhat careless with his stick and his instincts to cross-check people off of face-offs? Am I being fair in my assessment, or am I just being a biased hater? Again, think about it from the other team's point of view. Let me know in the comments what do you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. Trolls 99, and bye.